Are you seeing improvement here vis-a-vis the founding of companies that we saw in the prior 5 years to this set of data?
We are. In fact, over the last 5 years, we found that women have actually made some really great gains in terms of being represented among venture-backed companies that are raising venture dollars. As mentioned earlier, in Chicago, more than 36% of our venture-backed companies in the last 5 years had at least one woman founder, which is the highest rate of representation of any city included in this report. However, when we look at the amount of money that those women founders, those companies are raising, it's closer to about 15% of all the VC dollars that were deployed to Chicago companies. So, there's still quite a bit of work to do to address that funding gap.
What are the factors behind the data, Joey? What is it that makes Chicago an attractive place to be a venture capitalist or found a startup?
One thing that's working really well in Chicago is the fact that there are a number of organizations and programs that are focused on deploying capital, especially early stage capital, to women founders. And oftentimes when raising venture capital, being able to demonstrate traction is really essential. So ensuring that those founders are able to get that early stage capital, that non-dilutive capital very early in their startup journey is really essential. And I think that there's been a lot of work here in Chicago and elsewhere around the country to focus on that.
And
where we're seeing, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but there's also been a lot of work on diversity of all its guises. So, for example, black founded businesses as well, and you're shining a light on that's doing better, and you've got the second highest proportion in terms of percentage of VC-backed companies with a black or African-American founder, about 10%, way off the numbers we're seeing for women, Joey. I'm interested in the politics, the context of this. We had Ariane Simone on the show recently of the Fearless Fund, and we're starting to see a DEI pendulum swing. We're seeing people pushing back, saying, no, you shouldn't allocate funds from a VC or grant perspective to just a minority, be it women, be it people of color. Are you seeing that in action, or are you actually still seeing progress?
We are seeing progress. Look, there's a lot of misinformation that's been put out there around the virtue of diversity, equity, and inclusion in business and venture capital more broadly. But when you look at the funding numbers, even from our own report, we're finding that women, people of color, people who are founding companies, they're still raising significantly less than their counterparts. So what's really important here is ensuring that we are continuing to demonstrate why it's good to invest in diversity, the fact that when you have more diverse teams, they're more likely to have insights into other market opportunities that can ultimately produce better products and services for customers and ultimately produce higher returns for investors. We need to continue focusing on that, continue making that case, and demonstrating that there's also money to be made in addition to being good for society.
Chicago ranks number 1 or number 2 on your measures, but which cities or regions are showing the kind of most rapid improvements that may have been low down the list but are making progress to climb the table?
Something that we've found really interesting is in Boston, for example, they actually do really well when it comes to the percentage of dollars that are going to women-founded companies. So we can look to other parts of the country to see where there are higher proportions, higher concentrations of underrepresented founders who are raising venture capital, as well as the amount of money that they're raising. But the truth is, whether you're looking at Chicago or any other part of the country, there is still a significant funding gap for women, founders of color, and that is something that we need to focus on industry-wide.